A years-long battle has come to a head today as the Israeli High Court of Justice finally ruled on whether or not supermarkets and other grocery chains can operate on the Sabbath. Long story short, despite the opposition from several lawmakers and the Association of Tradesmen and Independent Business Owners, the judge ruled to allow companies like the AM/PM to continue to operate as normal. Well, here to help us analyze the court ruling and what the likely next moves will be are Rabbi Dov Halbertal, the former head of the Office of the Chief Rabbi of Israel and a former lecturer in Jewish law, and Rabbi Seth Farber, a modern Orthodox rabbi historian and the founder of ITIM, the Jewish Life Information Center of Israel. Thank you both so much for joining me. Now, do you agree with the ruling? Why or why not? We're starting with the big question here.
Look, the bottom line is the ruling is not only about stores open on Shabbat. It's a question about the way Israel sees its Jewish life. Right now, the ultra-Orthodox rolled the dice and they lost. Yeah. They could have resolved this issue through dialogue. That's what needs to happen right now. We need to decide as a country, as a people really, the way we want Shabbat to look in this country. Right now, that hasn't been decided. And unfortunately, it's being shoved down someone's throat. In principle, the issue of stores being open on Shabbat is a question that is complicated. On one hand, we want people to feel like they have rights. They want to be able to go to the beach on Shabbat. They should have a way to get there. Right. If they want to be able to shop on Shabbat, they ought to have a way to do it. On the other hand, we want to make sure that the public sector, the public sphere, is a place where Shabbat is something significant. Unfortunately, these issues all too often come down to all or nothing. And in this case, the issue was decided by the courts. It didn't need to happen that way. It could have been done by dialogue.
But do you think it was the right ruling?
If that's the way it had to happen, yes.
Okay.
But I prefer something else.
Yeah. What about you?
Of course not. I think it's a big mistake. After all, we are a Jewish state. We have a Jewish identity. It's not, you cannot come to the place that the only place that will keep Shabbat, it will be Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak. It will be like New York. You are from Argentine also. It will be like a small part of Buenos Aires or something like that. They keep Shabbat and the others, nothing. This is the place the things are going to. It's a slippery thing. It begins with a little bit and it will come to absolutely desecrating the Shabbat all over Tel Aviv, and not only in Tel Aviv, all over the state. We will stop to be a Jewish country.
But Minister Derry had the opportunity. He had the opportunity to make a deal. He had an opportunity to arrange for groups of people to have rights and it still maintain the character of Shabbat on the streets of Tel Aviv. And instead, he threw away that opportunity. There was no reason, there was no excuse.
There's an opportunity.
There was an opportunity for, there's always an opportunity for dialogue. We have
to stay on our principles as a Jewish state.
I agree with that.
You know what? We have to pay some price for being Jews here. You cannot talk about people going to the beach or something like this. They will not go to the beach, or they will go to the beach with the cars or with the taxis, I don't know how. People are being killed here in Israel to be Jew here in Israel. They are killed all over the world being Jews.
And being a Jew means respecting others. It means respecting others' rights.
Right, so that's why I want to go back to the kind of issue of the state's Jewish identity. I mean, being Jewish means a lot of different things for different people here. And clearly there is a demand for these stores to stay open among a certain population in Israel. So, the argument against the ruling says that businesses who open on Saturday are breaking a law that limits work hours and stipulates that you can't force workers to work on the Sabbath. But what about workers who don't mind working on the Sabbath? I mean, where do they fit into this?
That's not the real question. The real question is, how do we as a state publicly want to stay Jewish and Democrat? That's the big question. It's not a question of how they, the groceries and all those workers will be. That's not at all. That's not the question at all. The real and deep question is, if we as a Jewish state that bring an example to all over the Jewish in the world, if we want to stay publicly Jewish or not, that's a question.
Right. You can make
politics out of it.
The way to stay publicly Jewish is through dialogue. We need to understand from a Jewish perspective that there is more than one way to be Jewish in this country. I'm an Orthodox rabbi.
No, you are not Orthodox.
We cannot allow.
If you talk like this, you are not Orthodox.
We cannot allow.
Other wing.
I assure you, I'm an Orthodox rabbi, and I want to say very clearly that the way to protect the Shabbat, the way to protect the public sphere, the way to protect Jewish identity in this country is not to put a gun to someone's head and say, we're going to punish you.
You have to have some
We're going to
rules
punish
here.
you if you don't accept the way I wanted to be
It's
lived
not
Jewish.
like this.
That's
We
what's
are all
happening now.
Jewish. We are
But-
all
but
Jewish. From the beginning of state, the status quo was like this.
Well, here's
you
my
want
question.
to change it all of a sudden.
Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
You know, even if the rules were to change and it would be that, you know, no businesses are allowed to be open on the Sabbath, you would still have people who may not want to follow those rules, right? So that's still going to exist. How can you expect, I guess, to force people to follow religious rules, you know, in a modern democratic society, because we also are a democratic state?
That's not the real question, because the real question is the issue. What is our delivery? I mean, the principle that we deliver outside into ourselves. If we want to keep the Shabbat publicly, we have to stand on it. What will be happen if some people will not do it? We will deal with them. I don't know what
You will
there is-
punish
there is a
them. We don't want Jewish life to be something that destroys people's lives, that undermines their basic values. It doesn't have to be
So
like that.
don't
Judaism
close
is a
the
beautiful
communications
All right, my
in Yom
friends.
Kippur. Don't make kashrut. Don't.
Those
you know,
are in
you
the
can-
consensus,
you
and we can do
Well,
this
I think
through
we-
dialogue.
I
I want to go with it.
I think we
dialogue.
could have this
Through
conversation for
dialogue.
the rest of the show, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Thank you both so much for joining us, and we will wait and see what happens.